Thus Spoke Zarathustra. Zarathustra asks the first and only question: how to excel a human being? Try to surpass these lords of today, oh my brothers, these small people. They're the greatest danger for an overman. Thousands of years later, his name won back the hearts of people and fell into disrepute. It was all thanks to Friedrich Nietzsche, who in the 19th century wrote a book, Thus Spoke Zarathustra. The theory of Overman and the eternal recurrence were very dear to the heart of the Third Reich exponents, but they took the philosophical novel very liberally, whereas Nietzsche himself wasn't too soft with the ancient prophet and spoke his own thoughts on behalf of him. Overcome, you higher men, the petty virtues, the ants, the petty policy, and the happiness of the majority. Is that what Zarathustra spoke about? Chapter 1. Who is Zarathustra? The road from the very center of Taraz is short. Another couple of turns along the ancient caravan route across the stone bridge, which has been around for a few centuries now. Another turn, an archway, the city outskirts, and here we are in Tekturmas. Not a simple mountain which stands for a reason. This is a loose interpretation of the word Tekturmas from the Turkic language. The place really is not simple. Zoroastrian, Christian and Muslim burial mounds were found here. This is a kind of ancient cemetery. This is Central Asia's largest Zoroastrian necropolis and one of the most ancient ceremonial venues. There is a little hilltop, a slight breeze. Talas is down there carrying its boisterous waters with blinding sun rays. Everything is not a mere chance. Zoroastrianism is one of the most ancient philosophies on earth and a reference point for all world religions. They worshipped four elements: the earth, water, fire and air. Zoroaster, Zarathustra, Zarathustra. The latter is considered to be the most accurate version of pronunciation. He was born approximately in 1500 to 1200 BC. The date of birth was established according to the linguistic analyses of the Avesta. Back then, religion, the code of laws and science were inseparable, and thus it wasn't a mere collection of poetic texts, but a life-guiding manual. Vohumana, enlighten and let it give me more strength. Mazda, give Zarathustra a miracle-working word. That was a time of cruel wars, bloody sacrifices, the all-embracing power of sorcerers and magicians, and the overall decay of morals. The era of confusion arrived when the good and the evil got mixed up and a prophet was sent to people to help tell the difference between the two. Almaty, the Institute of Oriental Studies. Scientists believe that the most ancient part of the Avesta, including hymns, otherwise called as gods, were written by Zarathustra. An area where Zarathustra belonged worshipped numerous gods and their cult was predominantly based on fear. The reasoning was that a sacrifice was essential, otherwise the gods will be unforgiving. The world of Aryans was a world in which people were scared of the elements. This gave rise to the emergence of numerous deities who had to be kept appeased. The legend has it that when he was born he didn't cry like all newborns but laughed, and Zarathustra's laughter killed 2,000 demons immediately. When he turned 30 he saw beings clad in white robes, which were the embodiments of the virtue's purpose, the selected power, the best truth, the holy godliness, health and immortality. But more importantly, it was a deity who possessed life, the creator of the universe and the lord of wisdom, Ahura Mazda. Their radiance was so bright that when Zarathustra approached, he couldn't see his own shadow. A revelation, therefore, was bestowed upon the prophet that the salvation of every person depends on their thoughts, words and deeds. Thus, a new philosophy was formed. It was a time of many cults, and one didn't know who to worship. Zarathustra said straight away that Ahura Mazda can be that god, meaning God as a blessing. Thus was the ideological foundation of the religion, which was based on good thoughts, virtuous deeds, and words as the mission of religion instead of mere belief and fear. Heaven and hell, the advent of the Redeemers, the eternal life of the reunited body and spirit, and that one would be executed judged by their deeds, such were the religious tenets which were for the first time voiced by Zarathustra. Researchers concur that Judaism, Christianity, Islam and Buddhism contain a lot of elements that harken back to ancient Iranian beliefs or the theory of Zarathustra. One fact suffices that, for instance, the word denoting paradise in many languages dates back to the Iranian word paradaya, which literally means the enclosed orchard. The all-animating world power, the way of ascension to the light, the flame of home hearth, and the imminent punishment. Fire was the visible manifestation of Ahura Mazda, which is why Zoroastrians were referred to as fire worshippers. Fire is a communicator between the earthly human space and the divinity. Fire is holy. The Zoroastrian priest puts clean clothes on himself and protects even the breath. His breath must not get into contact with the sacred fire. Fire was taken care of as if it was a living being. Sacrifices were offered in the form of plants, as the burning of any flesh was deemed profane. Fire on the altar gave people strength to fight evil. The holiest fire was the one made when a stroke of lightning hits a tree. This fire was closely guarded. One of the holidays honoring fire which have been preserved in the nomadic culture is Nauriz. The religion of nature worshipping has always been relevant for the steppe. Chapter 2. Where did Zarathustra speak? A ban on fishing is enforced from March through to May. At other times, fishing is allowed on a monthly basis. Fish has been local staple food for centuries. The Kazakhs called this river as the gold stream with silver banks, the golden stem. That truly was a treasure which gave starred sturgeon and great sturgeon. The Kalmyks, who often inhabited this area, were more belligerent and called it Bal, or the honey river. Afghanistan, Azerbaijan, Russia, Ukraine all claim to be the birthplace of Zarathustra. At a place where the large river flows into the sea, there is sturgeon fish. The legend has it that the revelation came to Zarathustra when he went to take some water during the spring feast to make a sacred Aryan drink, haoma. Some researchers say that he went to the Ural River. Based on the content and the language of hymns composed by Zoroaster, it has been established that in reality he had lived in Asian steppes off the east coast of the Volga River. The most popular version is that Zarathustra was born in the Caspian prairie. Perhaps these were Caspian steppes or even places that were closer to Semirechye, because the Avesta often speaks of the 7 rivers. 3 Zoroastrian priests, known as prophets, when Jesus Christ appeared, they left those places. According to the Vedas, Semirechye is considered to be the ancestral home of Indo-Aryan peoples. Without a doubt, as researchers say, Zarathustra and his parents had been part of the steppe civilization. They tended cattle, were shepherds and nomads. His name in the Kalk translation sounds as that whose camels are old. At a first sight this seems strange, but this is an ancient tradition of Iranian and Turkic people to give their children mascot names. There were such names as the lean bull or slow camel. Such names were given to protect a child from natural ordeals and various illnesses, so that they survive in this life. Much later, the Greeks changed his name in their own way as Zoroaster, literally the one who came down from a star. After that, Zarathustra started to be associated with astrology and was often depicted as a stargazer in white robes holding a globe, Raffaello Santi, the 15th century. And indeed, he was a famous ancient astrologist. Researchers have no doubt that such a person existed. Scientists even established that the prophet had suffered from a physical impairment. The phonetic basis of the Gathas suggests that Zarathustra apparently had a light lisp. Zarathustra had long wandered and finally settled at the court of the East Iranian king Vishtaspa. The kingdom was situated someplace in modern Central Asia. Vishtaspa's wife became the follower of Zarathustra. If one to believe a legend, he had known about the date of his death but intentionally preferred to offer himself as a sacrifice. Zarathustra asked Ahura Mazda to give him immortality, but the creator of the universe refused to do so, saying that if he were to make him immortal, then the person destined to kill him would become deathless too, and the world would not be cleared of the evil, and the future existence of righteous men would be impossible. Zarathustra died aged 77 after he was stabbed in the back with a knife during a prayer. A priest who opposed the new faith murdered Zarathustra. Chapter 3. What did Zarathustra say? Show me the truth so that it calls and leads me to common sense, and ask us what others would ask you, so that you become just as powerful, if you can be mighty. In the evening, the main square in Taraz is blocked and it turns into a pedestrian crossing and the favorite place among the city residents. Around 150 years ago, a flower market was set up in this place. In year 56, a decision was made to tear it down, and during the work some ancient burial vessels, a fire pan and a special instrument were found. This finding gives a basis to suggest that the skeleton bones used to be cleaned off flesh by way of simmering them in these types of fire pans, and flesh was separated from bones with a spec-shaped fork. The later was brought up to a hilltop, waited until the bones separate, and only the clean bones were put into ossuaries and were buried on this hill. Ahura Mazda created all life, gave flesh to spiritual forms, and could predict the thoughts of all people alive, including all their words and deeds. At the same time, he gave them a choice between the good and the evil, because the choice of the good is a deed of one's own volition. Only this way can the camp of the good be fortified. He has a twin brother, his alter ego, and the embodiment of the evil called Ahriman. When a person died, this day was a holiday for Ahriman. The corpse was no longer a human being, but a defiling matter. This is the reason why the bodies were not burnt, but thrown into water and were never buried to avoid desecrating the holy elements with the decomposing flesh. Sometimes the dead were left to be eaten up by animals and birds. If a body was dragged off by predators and lacerated, the person was considered to be happy. If the body was torn to pieces by birds of prey, such as golden eagles for example, the person was considered to be blessed, meaning that their soul went straight to heaven. A large community of Zoroastrians, a big caste of people, kept a pack of specially trained dogs which would graze on corpses. After that, the bones would be collected and buried in ossuaries. The outer ossuaries fully reconstruct the forms of a typical yurt. Their surfaces are richly decorated with geometric and vegetative ornaments imitating nomadic felt designs. The walls were also covered with drawings to convey the paraphernalia so characteristic of yurts. The weaving of the framework, kerege, uyik, and changarak. These are clayware dating back to the 7th and the 8th centuries. They were found in Tekturmas. There are a total of about 200 such ossuaries. All of them were found in Tekturmas, on the outskirts of Atshabar. Afterlife means the spirit world. To reach the top of the mountain of justice, one needs to go across a bridge. For a righteous person, this won't pose any difficulties, but for a sinner, the bridge will narrow down and his soul will fall into an abyss where long-term darkness, bad food, and groaning reign. These pits near me are the remnants of archaeological excavations. History is now literally under my feet. I just picked up a piece of ceramics, but taking things off these cult sites is not allowed. All the findings will be better off if left where they had been found. We're going to do exactly that.
Пусть лежат.
turning creation into life, without dying and withering, without decay, eternally living and eternally growing, absolute, will raise from the dead and appear live, the immortal Savior, and will incarnate the world.